Hey everyone, welcome back to LightHearted. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Britton. We can't wait to introduce you to our special guest today, but before we do that, make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss an episode or any updates from us. Let's get into it. We are so excited to introduce you to Laura Gleason. Laura Gleason is amazing, and she happens to be my best friend.
Yay!
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Aside from being my best friend, though, she actually has like real credentials. So I'm going to read her bio. Laura Gleason is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Ohio. She offers therapy for youth, young adults, couples, and groups. Laura is passionate about helping people find the tools they need to understand their emotions, navigate personal struggles, heal from trauma, and strengthen their relationships. Her approachable style and humor create a relaxed, safe space for growth and healing. Laura is originally from Northern California, where she developed a love for the outdoors, especially the mountains. Before deciding she wanted to pursue her career in mental health, Laura trained horses professionally and worked in equine-assisted psychotherapy. She currently lives in West Virginia with her hilarious husband and 2 horses. When she's not in the office, Laura spends most of her time riding horses, eating good food, and spending time with her husband. As a little disclaimer here, she is a licensed therapist, but the things we are talking about today are not therapy, okay? This is just educational. That's our little disclaimer.
All right, Laura, before we get started, we always ask each of our guests 3 questions.
I'm so excited for this. I've listened to the podcast enough to know, and I'm so excited about this. I've had lots of time to think about my answer.
Perfect.
Not that it's going to be a great answer, but I've thought about it.
That's great because, with some of the guests, we didn't pre-warn them and they just had to come up.
That's great.
So, if you could go back in time and change something about your life that you had control over, what would you change, or would you change anything?
That's such a great question. So nothing big, because as I've heard many other guests say, like, all the experiences I've had have led me to now, and I'm quite happy with that. But there's like one little teeny memory that's like so silly. Not really. It's actually quite serious. But like there's one moment, I think I was in first grade, and my mom and I went to the store and I found these pants that were like crazy and fun. I've told you this story, Britton.
I love this.
They're like so fun and so colorful and so exciting. And I was like, these are the pants. Like, I want these. I think they had like pink, orange, and red on them.
Love that.
Loved them. And my mom was like, are you sure? She was very sweet about it. Like, are you sure you want these? Are you sure you're going to wear these? And I was like, yes, Mom, I'm going to wear those. And I wore them to school. And my friend comes up to me and was like, you should wear jeans. And I was like, oh, okay. And like the happy girl that I was like, absolutely, I will do that. If I were to go back, I think I would have said, thanks for your input. Obviously, I was in first grade, didn't have the maturity to say that. But if I were to go back, I think I would have worn the fun pants and rocked them. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. So they went to the bottom of the drawer and my mom was like, I wondered if you weren't going to wear these. So yeah. We've talked about it now, and now she knows it's because my friend said something.
Yeah, she knows you were pressured.
I was
into jeans,
pressured.
like regular people.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the only one.
Poor tiny Laura.
That's the only one.
All right. I guess along those same lines, if you could give yourself your younger self, one piece of advice, what would you say to her?
I think it would be like, stay humble, but find ways to love yourself.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's so
I think
good.
I would have said that. Like, find ways to love yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all need that one.
Yeah.
Like, stay humble, but love yourself.
Yeah, like love yourself, but not in the like conceited way.
Cocky.
Yeah. But in the like genuine, like wholehearted, love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
If you could ask your future self one question, what would you ask?
Honestly, I'm going to flip the second question on its head. I think I'd say, what advice do you have for me?
Love that.
Like, I'd want to know because I don't want to know like, how many kids did I have? Or because I feel like I want to live life present,
Yeah.
I would love to have a future teller to tell me everything that's going to happen. Anxiety, LOL. We're talking about that today. That's my anxiety speaking. Yeah. But like, I think it would be awesome to just have like some kind of wisdom to guide without like giving away the juicy details,
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what would you tell me? I like that a lot.
What could you say that could help me, or What should I focus on?
That's a good
I think
one.
that's like the best answer.
That's the best
No
answer
offense
we've
to any
gotten.
of our
Yeah,
That's so
sorry.
nice. Well, okay, maybe we're jumping in too early, but in one of the human development researchers talks about in the very last stage of life, you have this like task to complete, which is integrity versus despair. And it's this idea of like looking back on your life either with integrity, knowing that like I lived the way I wanted to, I was happy with it. And there's kind of this like wisdom in there too, versus despair. Like, are you looking back in regret? So to me, like if I were to ask my older self, like that's the person I want to ask for advice because they have all the wisdom, they have all the hindsight, you know, so.
They maybe have some regret that they could like put on you to take care of.
100%. Yeah.
I love that. Obviously, we're here talking about anxiety with Laura.
Yay.
And, you know, we've kind of touched on a few things already. One thing I think that comes up for me a lot is just like knowing the difference between normal stress of just being a human and like anxiety. Can we just kind of start there and whatever you want to share with us, we would love that.
Absolutely. I think a really good way to look at it is like emotion versus like the diagnosis, right? Like a lot of people will say like, I have anxiety. And usually what they mean by that is like, I've been diagnosed with some form of an anxiety disorder, right? Another thing I'm just going to really quickly spin off of that is anxiety disorder is just because you've been diagnosed with it. Like, let's say now I'm 29 and I've been diagnosed with it. Doesn't mean I'm going to have it when I'm 50. Like it's not a permanent thing. It can ebb and flow, if that makes sense. So the emotion of anxiety is usually like, I mean, you said stress, right? I think that's a good way to describe that emotion is like you might feel some butterflies in your stomach. Or I just want everybody to imagine you are climbing up a mountain and you look down and there's a cliff to your right. And if you were to take one wrong step, you're falling down the cliff. Imagine how you might feel. That's the emotion of anxiety, right? Like, oh no. The diagnosis is like, I'm just actually going to read it very briefly. Excessive anxiety and worry occurring more days than not for at least 6 months or more. So if you could think about the last 6 months, did you have this like persistent worry or fear? Like, did you wake up in the morning feeling worried and it like lasts most of the day, right? And it lasts more than 6 months. There's also like different kinds of anxiety. Like there's specific phobias, they call them. For me, I have a specific phobia of needles. So like every time I go to the doctor, they tell me I'm going to get my blood drawn or I'm going to get a vaccine, like I am anxious. And so there's things like that. There's also like social anxiety disorders. But when we're talking about like generalized anxiety, it's usually this like persistent, excessive worry. It's usually not connected to like a specific event that's happening, right? Like I had a job interview this weekend that's targeted to something specific. Usually it's like generalized, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does
totally
that
does.
clear enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
So if we think about also normal stress, I think anxiety, a lot of people are scared of it. Kind of ironic because
That's true.
anxiety is kind of a subset of fear, right? But anxiety is normal and healthy to experience. If you think about like when you were a kid in school or like a teenager in school, if you didn't feel anxious about the test that you were about to take, you're not going to study for it. Right? If I wasn't a little bit anxious about getting on this podcast, I might not have like put some thought into it and prepared for it. And so I think anxiety is like really, really important that we experience. But when it starts to get to where it's like negatively impacting us socially, in our careers, in our relationships, like all of that, that's when it starts to become something that we want to address and treat. Right? And we can get more into that. But yeah, I think that's kind of like normal. It's normal to feel stressed.
Yeah.
But if it's a little too often, a little too frequent, and a little too intense, it starts to become a problem. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because I feel like there are times in my life where like I'm stressed, but it helps me get things done.
right.
And then there are times where I'm stressed, but then I am like totally frozen and can't move forward in my life.
Yeah. Like you crippled.
Crippled. And
Yeah.
I don't, like I have a tough time like differentiating sometimes where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like is this helping me? Is it hurting me?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What times have you noticed it hurts you more than helps you?
I think it's like when it's the crippling, like I have 500 things to do and I physically can't do any of them.
Yeah.
Like where I'm just like, oh, like I don't know where to start. I don't know which one's most important. Like I can't even make a list right now. Like I think that's when it hurts.
That makes sense.
But when it's like a manageable amount where I'm like, oh man, gotta get this done, like gotta get this done by this day, gotta do this, then it's fine and it's really helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
What about you?
Love it.
Like hurtful versus like helpful.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing, honestly. Like, I've had moments where I'm like, I'm going to use kids as an example. There was times in my life where I was feeling anxious, and like kids were a good distraction from that because I was like helping out with them, taking care of them. So it was like a good distraction. And then there were days that was like, I can't do anything. Like, I cannot help you. I cannot watch you. It's just adding more anxiety to what I was already feeling.
Totally.
Yeah.
Crippling. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This might be a good time to talk about window of tolerance.
Yeah.
Maybe. Is it cool that we just jump
Yes.
in? So something that I think what you guys are saying, right, is like there's like this threshold that you pass that's like it's no longer serving me, this emotion. It's like stopping me, freezing me, or like getting me into a headspace that's not helpful. Everybody kind of has this. One of my mentors calls it the worry bucket, where like your day or your life might be filled with worries, right? And so like, I don't know, what's something you would add in a day to your worry bucket? Like something that just maybe gets added
Like
through the day.
Picking my son up from school on time.
Yeah. Like oh no, I got to make sure I'm there on time.
Have to make sure, I can't be late.
It's like an important anxiety to have.
Totally.
Yeah. Is there anything you would add to your bucket?
No.
Or that just gets added? You can cut this out of the podcast, but like maybe answering the phone like when someone unexpected calls you.
Yeah.
Like oh no, like
I hate answering the phone.
like hate answering
Or just
the
like
phone.
a text from someone that's like they need something or they're just
Yeah, and I don't know how to respond. Yeah. For me, I think one of them might be like what you said, like I've got so much on my to-do list and it's like organizing it all, getting it into the right place, right?
Yeah.
So those are like normal stressors, right? But then you might add in like a health diagnosis of someone in the family. And then your worry bucket's like pretty filled up. And then you might add in like, I don't know, your husband got in a car accident today and everything's fine, but now you got to take the car or I don't know, maybe your car breaks down or maybe you were late to work and your boss got mad at you or you realize that you missed a deadline. I'm sure like everyone could probably think of like little things that they would add. But like if you can think about like if your bucket has a threshold, once it passes a certain point, like you're no longer in a zone to be able to like handle that stress and your like symptoms are almost like too much and you have to get back into a zone that's like manageable. So if you could think of it like green, yellow, orange, red, green is like, I'm comfortable, I'm good. Yellow's like, got some stuff to cope with. I've got a podcast I'm on this morning. Oh my gosh, I got to make sure like everything's good. My brain's in a good headspace, but like I'm good. I'm with friends. I'm chilling, right? Orange might be like, ooh, we're getting a little warm in here. And like, I'm not feeling so great. My heart rate's really beating. Like I'm starting to feel not great. Red is like, I'm past my threshold. I cannot like, and when we're in that red zone, like we're out of a learning frame of mind and we can no longer actually like function. Like, yeah. And that's kind of what you were saying about like that crippling, like anxiety. Yeah.
I really like that analogy. Because I also I think too, like with that analogy, there might be like big things, like say your family got in a car accident. That may fill up the bucket like
immediately.
The one thing.
Yes.
Or it could be a bunch of small things.
Yes.
And you just hit too many small things and it's like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's like kind of two ways we can go with this is like either we empty our buckets often, right? That's like the importance of R&R, like
Some relaxation.
just relaxation, a little bit of self-care.
Yeah, a little bit of TLC.
Yeah. And then the other thing that we talk about is growing your window of tolerance or growing your worry bucket. So that like, and that's what resilience is, right? That word gets thrown around a lot. Like if we can build the capacity of our bucket, then we become more resilient and we can handle more.
Yeah.
So that when we do get the call that, oh my gosh, family got in a car accident, you're not like, fractious and panicky or like completely shut down. It's like, okay, this is a lot. What do we need to do? And you can kind of go into that like.
Because you had more room in your bucket.
You had more room in your bucket, right? Yeah.
Makes sense.
And that probably goes in seasons too. Like you probably maybe grow that threshold and then sometimes it'll go back.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would think so.
You know, because like just depending on life,
Yeah, because like life doesn't, like, even if it's like good, it's not just gonna like stay good forever. Like things are gonna happen.
Like, guys, I know there's times that I can handle like all these things.
Yeah.
And then there's times where I'm like, it's like the same things, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah. I feel like for my like menstrual cycle too, where it's like, okay, this week I have the capacity to like deal with a lot of crap.
Yeah.
100%.
I can deal with that. This week I cannot.
100% that applies. Yes.
Okay.
In fact, that's something I talk with my clients about a lot, is like knowing where you're at that week is going to be helpful for you to know like what you can add on and what you need to maybe take off this week as far as like expectations for yourself, you know, because that's part of, I think, managing your mental health is just knowing what your limits are. So I also think like depending on your habits, so like we can talk a little bit later about like how I might grow a window of tolerance, but like if you're not being diligent with those habits, like I think it could start to shrink, right? Or like a trauma that you might experience could also shrink that window, because there's like that, your body's a little bit traumatized, a little bit jarred from that experience. So yeah.
I love that.
I love it.
I love that so much.
I think too, like for me, if I'm like struggling, I'm gonna work really hard on like managing it, figuring out what I need to do, get into the good habits.
Yes.
But then if I'm doing really well, I'll kind of slack off of those things.
100%.
So then my tolerance is gonna go way back down because I'm like, wait, but I was doing great. I don't need to do all these things.
I don't need to do the good habits. Yeah.
I agree with
What
that.
are some things you notice when things are good? Like what starts to fall off the bandwagon that you feel like maybe helps your window stay large?
Self-care.
Okay.
Honestly, like my relationship with Christ, like
Yeah.
prayer and that kind of stuff. Like if I'm struggling, that's a normal thing. People like tend to like, you know, if you have faith, you're going to run to God, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're doing really well, you're like, I'm just doing well. And you kind of forget about it almost. Like maybe not completely, but yeah, I like journal.
Like you're not like begging on your knees for help. Like
I journal a lot, prayer journal. And then sometimes I'll just like kind of, I'm like, I'm busy, I'm doing well. And I like fall off of that. And then I'm like, well,
great.
Yeah. And something that might mean too is like journaling for you is emptying the bucket.
Yeah.
Or like prayer for you is emptying the bucket. And it's kind of that like re-energizing, rejuvenating place. Yeah.
I also heard one once. This is sidebar.
I love this.
No, I also heard one once that was like also acknowledging like we said, like everyone's tolerance is different. So we may look at someone like, why do you like spiral out of control at this and I don't?
Yeah.
And it was like, we're all going downstream and we're in a kayak and like the bank, like some people are just gonna like the banks are way closer.
Yes, that's literally, sorry, I cut you off.
No, go.
That's literally an analogy I'll use with clients is like, I have a visual, I'll show them and it's my favorite because it has a little unicorn floaty. And like it shows like when your bank is slim and you have the same amount of water, it's going to rush and rush and it's going to feel like so much. But the moment that bank expands, it's like smooth ride. Sorry,
Okay.
I
that 100%
cut you
makes
off.
sense.
No, you definitely explained that better than I could. So, love it. Love it.
It's only because I explain it like 20 times a day, so it's fine. It's great.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is funny. I feel like oftentimes like on here we'll end up talking about things like we have already talked about where it's like, why is this crazy thing happening? Or like, why do we handle stuff like that so much better? But then like, there's a very obvious answer to that. Yeah. That's interesting.
Going off of what you're saying too, Rachel, I think there's something called trigger stacking, which we kind of talked about earlier, right? The worry bucket gets bigger, like more full and more full and more full. Yeah. So often we can be like, why is this person spiraling? Like they're fine. But what we don't know is like how many things have been added to their bucket in these little incremental moments that we're like just seeing the thing that tipped them over the iceberg or tipped that worry bucket over the edge. And then we're like judging them, right? Without knowing that like, you don't know what their life has been the last 6 months. Right. You don't know like financially, socially, like all of it. It's you just never know.
This is making me laugh only because like my parents probably sometimes are like, what the crap is wrong with her? Like I said one thing and she's hysterically sobbing
over the edge.
Like, yeah, like it has like very little to do with whatever they said or whatever they did, and it's like,
I've always I'm gonna throw Jordan under the bus here because I'm sure like when we first got married he felt the same way where he was like, who is this crazy person? Because like my cherry on top would always be like my mascara going on like not well,
right?
You know, so like I would be in the bathroom and it's like getting all clumpy and I'd be like.
Like, why?
Like I'm just done for today, and I'm like, no, it's because like this was going on and this was going on and this happened and blah blah blah. Like I'm dealing with all this other crap. And then it's like, that's my little cherry on top, is that I can't even get my mascara to go on right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I lose it. Yeah.
And I think there's so many people, there's a questionnaire I have my clients take, and one of the questions is like, I feel like something is wrong with me. And I'll ask clients when they say like almost always or frequently, like I'll ask them like, hey, what's going on there? And a lot of times it is like, I can't even get my mascara on without like crying if it messes up.
Yeah.
And like one of the things we talk about is like, you're not broken. Like it's not that there's something wrong with your brain. It's just maybe that you're already at your capacity. And it's just that the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? And so I think it's important to like be able to recognize those moments so that you know, oh, I'm past my limit.
Yeah.
Like
I've reached it.
I've reached it. Yeah. Okay. So the very first thing I tell people in terms of expanding your window is you have to know where you're at in your window to be able to expand it. So being able to recognize where your levels are at is going to be the first step. And one of the things I like to say, there's a guy, his name is Dr. Dan Siegel. He's kind of a legend and he's amazing in the world of psychotherapy. He says, name it to tame it. So if like you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, why do I feel like this? I'm sad, I'm bummed. And then you're like judging yourself and you're hard on yourself. It's like pause and just notice with curiosity, what am I feeling right now? And if you can't put an emotion to it, just what sensations do I feel in my body right now? And being able to say like, and I'll just be vulnerable right now, right? Like I feel a little bit of some butterflies in my stomach. I feel like my butterflies are in formation, but like there's some butterflies in my stomach, right? I feel like this kind of buzz, this drive of energy. My toes were going a little bit numb because I was like crossing my legs, right? So now my feet are on the floor. Like, so like just doing like a little body scan from head to toe, like what am I feeling in my body? And not being like, how do I get rid of it? You know, make it go away. I hate how this feels.
Yeah.
That's just noticing, right? And so that's the first step. A lot of times when we do that, and then if we can put a name to it, like, oh, this is worry. Or, oh, this is excitement because I got a big day ahead of me. Or, oh, this is frustration because I didn't get the job I wanted. Or, right, like, and then being able to go, this is the emotion. It makes sense that I feel that. You take a breath and then you move forward, right? That alone can help in expanding that window. Another one of my mentors has always said, like, in order to get out of your comfort zone, you have to start in your comfort zone, which is what I just described, right? Get yourself back in your comfort zone, maybe do a coping skill, and we can talk about those more later. But notice where you're at, do a coping skill, and then move forward. So we talk about zones, right? Green is like the comfort zone. Yellow is, maybe we could call it the growing zone. And then orange and red are kind of that like panic, or sometimes I like to call it the throw up zone, right? Like not productive, right? We do not want to go there. The throw up zone or the fainting zone.
Oh, yes, we're very familiar. Thanks.
Panic zone.
Laura.
Glad I'm in good company. This is good. So get yourself into green. And then when you notice yourself getting to yellow, pause, but don't rush back to green, like what you're saying, right? Part of how we expand that window is like exposing ourselves to stress and then being able to cope with it. So when you notice yourself in a yellow zone, just pause, notice, and go, oh my gosh, I'm in the frustration zone or the learning zone. Let me just kind of like pause and how can I lean into this, right? And this might be where you explore like, what do I need right now in order to accomplish this? What resources do I need? Do I need to talk to somebody? Do I need to ask for support? Do I need to research some things, right? Things like that, right? Or a therapy session for me. Like if I'm feeling a little bit like yellow about a therapy session I'm jumping into, it might be because I don't feel prepared. And so does that make sense?
Yeah, so like you just
Did I
wouldn't
explain
like
that
skip out on the therapy session because you weren't feeling prepared.
100%.
You would say, okay, like I'm feeling a little nervous about this one.
Yeah. Maybe a good example is this weekend I had a job interview, right? And right before, like an hour before, my husband was home and I was like, I'm feeling really anxious. And I was like at the top of my yellow zone, like getting into orange. And I'm like, my stomach is buzzing and my head is reeling. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm like nervous and worried. And I said to Mitch, like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do with all this energy. So the first thing that I did is I did like 20 push-ups on my knees. I'm not that strong, but I did 20 push-ups.
She did 20 actual
actual real push-ups like a big girl. Because we're going all over the place, but emotions are just energy. And as we know from physics, energy can't be, what is it, created or destroyed. It has to go somewhere. So for me, like I need to like walk or do push-ups or do something to like put the energy somewhere.
Yeah.
So I did that first. And then I was like, I think I'm nervous because I haven't prepared. I haven't written down my answers to the questions they told me they're going to ask me. And so I went and I wrote those down. And then I went upstairs to Mitch and I was like, now I'm excited. Like that was some of that energy was excitement. But I was like feeling nervous because I hadn't prepared. And so that's that yellow zone is like, I'm going to stay in it. I'm not going to try to breathe and do these coping tools so that I can relax. I'm maybe going to ask like, what is this anxiety trying to motivate me to do? And then how can I help my anxiety by doing that thing?
I like that.
I love that.
I like that a lot.
I think that kind of, I mean, you could disagree, but I think that kind of applies a little bit to where I keep saying, like, you can do things scared.
Yeah.
And I used to just be like,
100%.
oh, wait, if I'm scared of it or nervous about it, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And now I've been trying more to be like, okay, I might be a little scared. Let's just, like, do it scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it, like, I told her, I was like, it's so much more empowering when you do something
Yes.
scared rather than, like, trying to get the fear to go away.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Okay, I have a question that kind of maybe goes with this a little bit.
Yeah.
So I tend to get like the same symptoms in my body from like overly excited to like, holy crap, I'm so anxious, I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's frustrating because it's like, okay, I'm excited right now, so why am I getting my like super anxiety
Anxious
bad
symptoms?
feelings? Because then I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, is something wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can compare this to like, okay, I met Kane for the first time, the band I'm obsessed with. The
Yeah.
first time I met them,
Yeah.
there was probably some nerves there too, but like mostly excitement.
Yeah.
I literally almost fainted. Like I was so sick.
Like blacked out.
my
so
hands,
cute.
my
Oh my
hands, my hands were numb. Like I was
Oh.
like, I'm gonna pass out. But
Yeah.
then like, if I'm dealing with something that's like genuinely terrifying to me, it's the same symptoms.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck?
You're not crazy because anxiety and excitement feel the same in the body. They really do. So one of the things we talk about with the window of tolerance is kind of that like hyper arousal where there's like this activation of the nervous system, right? Where we're like energized in some way, right? You're spot on. They feel the same to the body. And so, yeah, you're not crazy. There's nothing bad happening. You don't need to be worried.
Right.
But if you are about to faint, then you could probably also use this same coping tools that you might use for anxiety.
Interesting.
Like this energy needs to go somewhere, right? Which is why when people are excited, they jump and they dance and they're
Right.
excited, right? Because that energy is trying to go somewhere, right? Which is why dancing is actually a really great coping skill for anxiety. Because it's like that energy has to go somewhere. So
I love that.
yeah.
it.
Does that answer it
Yeah.
sufficiently?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think it's just like, for me at least, I'm doing better now. But
Yeah.
like at the beginning, I couldn't figure out why they were the same. So then I was like, wait, am I terrified? I'm confused.
Like, am I scared? Because I'm feeling the same symptoms.
But then
Like-
you start to get scared because
Yeah.
you think you're scared. You know what I mean?
I
Like
do.
it's like,
Yeah, you're like,
do.
something is wrong.
Right.
yeah.
Like something.
And then
has
you're starting
be
to
wrong.
worry. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
What a good feeling.
Isn't that funny?
I love all of it.
Yeah. You're not crazy.
great. I am, but like maybe not.
Maybe not in that way. And it's a good kind of crazy. I think that's you make a good point though. One of the things we talk about is like when you feel an emotion and then you like stack like 10 other emotions on top of it, right? When you're like, man, I feel so scared. What a dummy. Why do we feel so scared?
Yep.
Right. And then you're adding like guilt and judgment on top of that. And then you're feeling sad because you're like, why am I always like this? Right. And like, I wish I just couldn't be like this.
no.
And then like, why don't we just rewind a second? You're anxious. What if you were to just pause and be like, huh, I'm anxious right now. I feel the tightening in my chest. I feel this and that. Okay. Right. And then you just have one emotion to cope with rather than like 10 because you like stacked them, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so real.
Yeah.
That's so real.
Like, yeah.
I'm going to need you to leave.
So sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I love you.
Yeah,
Are we a
that's
little orange? How are you feeling?
We're orange. Get out. Everyone
Let's
out.
just stay there for a second. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's just so interesting because like how often do we make it so much worse on ourselves?
So much worse. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And that's like, I ran a ACT group. It's acceptance and commitment therapy. It's great for like dealing with anxiety. And one of the things we talked about is like being able to look at your emotions, notice your emotions as the curious observer so that you're not judging. You're not like, that helps to not add all these other emotions on top of it, right? Because like you said, you're excited. What if you could just be in the moment and be excited and be like, hold on, I'm about to faint. I need to like sit down. But like, this is so overwhelmingly good. Like, what if you could just soak that in rather than being like, wait, I must be scared. Like, I'm crazy. You know
what's interesting too is that's all on film. And when I go back to watch it, I like get the same feeling again. Not like as high, but like it's just like,
it's like when you watch a roller coaster on YouTube,
right?
Where you're like on the roller coaster, you're like,
and your like stomach drops. Like, it's so interesting. Isn't that funny?
No, it's so hard. So I think it would be really good if we could talk about how to manage anxiety attacks.
Yeah. Really quick though, before we like jump into that, can you explain the difference between like an anxiety attack and a panic attack?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel like
as society, like we kind of just like clump them as one.
Yeah, we totally do.
So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the biggest difference, honestly, the symptoms tend to be pretty similar. But a panic attack is usually like a pretty sudden onset where like all of a sudden you're in the middle of like these like intense like shortness of breath, racing heart, right? An anxiety attack is usually pretty gradual. Usually the anxiety attack is connected to the anticipation of a specific event. A lot of times like the panic attack can be in response to a stressful event or trigger, right? And so like, let me think about like clients I've worked with. One of them, it was like she just was carrying a lot on her plate. She was dealing with some pretty intense grief and some pretty intense actually like anger connected to that grief because of how like it affected her. And then on top of that, she had like a family that she was dealing with. Her husband is a doctor and just like so much that she had going on. And she was like, there would just be this gradual build up to where she'd like have to go to the closet and she'd hyperventilate and kind of be like panicking. That's more of an anxiety attack, right? Where it's this gradual buildup. But the panic attack is just like all of a sudden you are like shortness of breath, panic. Does that make sense?
With that, I've had both.
You've had both. Fair.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
I don't know which one I prefer. I mean, neither.
I think I prefer a panic attack because then it's just like
no,
it happens fast and it's done.
And then it's
the
done.
Anxiety attack, I like you said, like I think it builds up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, it sucks, but I'm not dying. I don't feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm really anxious and starting to like panic attack. I'm like, wait, well, I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like I'm dying.
Like call the coroner.
Yeah.
Right.
We're done.
That makes sense. And that's the one that usually feels like a heart attack is because it's like all of a sudden your heart is racing and your heart's maybe hurting. Like,
because it's scary because you like don't really know what it's connected to.
you don't know what it's connected to. Yeah, exactly. If anyone's ever seen the show Ted Lasso, there's, I think in season 2, a pretty good depiction of a panic attack. To where like it's just all of a sudden he's like shaking and trembling and he doesn't know what's happening. I would say in Inside Out 2, I'm pretty sure that's a better depiction of like an anxiety attack because you see anxiety in the brain just getting like more and more intense, and then all of a sudden she's like running around in a circle, right? And so
that movie made me sob.
Right?
I still haven't watched
Big
it
Ugly
because
Tears.
I'm terrified.
We should watch
Really?
it.
It's so good.
We
should.
Okay, as like Laura Gleason part 2.
Yeah,
we're just gonna watch
and we'll
Inside
show
Out
like
2.
reactions to
We're just
it.
gonna react to
I love it.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's really good.
So tips for managing anxiety.
Yeah, I would love that.
We would all love that.
And kind of like if we could talk about managing just like anxiety,
Okay.
and then managing anxiety attacks, 'cause,
yeah.
like they are different, like they feel so different.
Absolutely.
So if you don't mind covering both of those,
Not
that'd
at
be
all.
amazing.
Yeah. Do you have a preference of which one we do first?
Well, maybe since we were just talking about anxiety attacks.
Yeah,
Let's do that
sounds
one.
great.
Yeah. So this is where I would say like a healthy distraction is really helpful. A lot of times when we're in the middle of an anxiety attack, we don't feel like coping, right? No one wants to breathe. No one wants to like, okay, just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's tell me 5 things you can see. I've actually had a client where she was in the middle of one in a session and I like asked her that and she couldn't even get to like 5 things that she could see, right? For those that don't know, there's a coping skill called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's basically like, tell me 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And it's really a great coping skill. But when you're in the middle of a panic attack or an anxiety attack, excuse me, you don't really feel like it. So healthy distractions are great, honestly. So even if it's like quickly, I don't know, calling a friend or walking outside for a second and just getting a change of scenery, like just one little shift in your environment can be really helpful. Another thing, holding ice cubes is one thing I really, really recommend. Just for kind of like snapping you out of that state, or like something warm, like run your hands under warm water or take a hot bath or a hot shower if you can, right? Not everyone can do that. Those are good. So I could say like a quick, healthy distraction to get you to a place where then you could implement a coping tool. Let me just like rewind really quick too. We talked about the green, yellow, orange, red zones, right? The best time to start implementing coping tools, or the best time to start implementing coping tools, is not when you're in the middle of an anxiety attack. Right. It's like a muscle, right? The best time to start working out is not when you're helping your friend move and you have to lift a heavy couch, right? That's not the time to start. And so my biggest piece of advice to people that do experience anxiety attacks is to start using coping tools when you're in green, because that's going to build your muscle. It's also going to help teach your brain, like, this is something that we do to slow our brain and relax, so that by the time you get into the anxiety attack and you implement it, your brain is already familiar with it. The other thing that I would say, honestly, Google's a great tool. Like, Google coping tools. Because like I said, I have my favorites: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ice cubes. Box breathing is really great, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That's another one. Another great one that actually slows your heart rate quicker than anything else is, we can all do it together if you want, but you breathe in through your nose as much as you can. And at the top of that breath, you do a short, quick breath, and then you breathe out through your mouth for as long as you can.
I want to try it.
Ready? So
we're going to try it.
So breathe in through your nose, and then a quick breath at the top, and then breathe out through your mouth as slow as you can. Now, if you imagine being in the middle of an anxiety attack, when you're like you're hyperventilating, you can't, that's going to be really hard, but you do it as best as you can. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Another good way to do this is if you like hold up your hands and they say like blow out the candles. So you could go and like blow out your pinky. Right?
That would be good for kids too.
It's great for kids. I've also seen videos of kids helping their parents. They're like, hey, mommy, like blow out the candles. And it's like really, so it's a great for the whole family.
I love it. I know I've had a kid that's like really upset. Like, can you blow the paper towel? Like, so probably similar.
Or if you like grab a piece of paper and like, can you make the paper move? Yeah. And it like blows, like makes a noise. Yeah.
We always did like the dragon breath.
Yeah, that's a great one.
But man, I love this.
One little warning though is if you're not used to breathing a lot, sit down because you might get lightheaded.
You're not used to breathing.
You go from like hyperventilating to like
if we're always breathing at like the top part of our
honestly,
lungs,
if
like
I'm having an anxiety attack, make me pass out. It's fine.
Like it's easier for everyone if I'm just out.
Like I'll get through it quicker.
That is true. I'm like, when I wake up, everything's just better anyway.
Yeah.
So when I've had anxiety attacks, though,
the
ones I can remember, it's like, okay, instant. I'm putting shoes on. I'm going to my car. I'm turning on worship music and I'm driving.
Yeah, that's honestly another great one is like listening to music. Because the energy has to go somewhere. Yep. Right? And so if you can put the energy in a new place. Mm-hmm. One of my therapists told me to like blast music, but don't sing along, like scream along. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's going to do wonders for my vocal cords and my voice. But like it helps put the energy somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that's part of like going back to the quick distraction, right? Like slamming a pillow on the ground, screaming into a pillow. It kind of depends though on like how you respond to anxiety. And I don't want to go too much into that, but like we talk about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are more in that fight or flight where it's a very active, chaotic energy, right? That's going to be more like you're screaming, you're into a pillow or in the car, you're going on a walk, right? Like things like that. That's hyper arousal. Then there's hypo-arousal where there's the freeze and fawn where you're going to be more dissociated, shut down, kind of that frozen, stuck energy. And you might need probably walking as well would be helpful for that. Honestly, it's my biggest piece of advice is just walk more. But yeah. Okay. one really, I kind of said it before, but a really important part of like managing anxiety attacks is going to be noticing it before it gets to the anxiety attack. Right? Like it's kind of like with our worry bucket. Like if your bucket's 3/4 of the way full, that may be the time to start emptying the bucket.
I'm terrible at that.
It's so hard.
I'm good at noticing it. I can typically be like, yeah, I'm definitely getting.
Yeah.
But something in my brain's just like, but I should be able to handle it. It's going to be fine. So then I just keep going.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way where I'm like, yeah, like that's just part of being a human. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Move along.
Right.
And then it's way
crap
too
hits
far.
the fan.
Yeah. And I wonder if you could say the same thing. It's part of being a human. And I know myself.
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to be better off if I pause now. And again, pausing doesn't have to take 30 minutes. It could be just 5 minutes of pausing.
Yeah.
What am I feeling? Of course you're feeling this way. Validating it, right? Like showing yourself a little compassion, which I think is probably the hardest part for people. So we were talking about how like the best way to manage anxiety is like before it gets to an anxiety attack, right? And I think if we can get really good at just checking in often and noticing where we're at, I think that's really helpful. There's a kind of a cheat sheet that Tiffany Rowe, she's a therapist in Utah. She has a great Instagram. I'm just going to plug her really quick. I just love her. But she talks about feel, deal, heal, which is like there's 3 steps to feel, which is name the emotion, validate the emotion, and self-compassion, offer self-compassion. One of the things that I like to say with validation, by the way, is we validate the person. I did just say validate the emotion, but validate the person. We don't always want to validate like the reasons for the emotion, right? So for like, I don't know, give me something random that like you've been anxious about that it's like, okay, don't like, this isn't going to kill me. Like, I'm fine. Yeah, you look like you have one.
Yeah, you have
You
one.
made a face that you were like, I'm ready.
What's not going to kill me that makes
Okay,
me
I was wrong. I'm sorry. I read that wrong.
No, going to the dentist? I don't know.
Yeah, going to the dentist.
Yeah, going
That's
to the
a good one
dentist.
for you.
Yeah. So like if what that might sound like is instead of being like, of course you're scared of the dentist. Dentists kill people. No, like that's not how you validate that emotion, right? It's like, of course you feel anxious. This is not something you're fully comfortable with yet. Right? So like, or if I'm anxious about a test, of course you feel anxious. This is a big deal, right? Of course you do. So that's what that might sound like, right?
Yeah.
So you name it. I feel anxious. Of course you feel anxious. You're not totally comfortable at the dentist yet. Self-compassion might be like, I believe in you. You got this. Or I love you. As simple as that. The next step is feel. And that is like, can you just sit with the sensations without trying to judge them or change them? So a lot of people will do like body scans where they'll be like, okay, notice the tension in your shoulders. Now release the tension in your shoulders. This one, we're saying, notice the tension in your shoulders and allow the tension to be there. Allow the butterflies in your stomach. Allow the tension in your hips and just sit with it, right? So that's feel. And you do that, I don't know, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, kind of depending on how big that emotion is. If you're wanting to cry in that moment, that's a great time to just allow tears to melt and flow, right? For those that don't like crying, I just need to say this. My dear lovely friend. Cortisol is released through tears. And so if you're like, man, I hate crying, just be like, I'm relieving stress right now. Like cortisol is literally leaving. Okay. So that's feel. Cope is the next one. I said there's 3 steps. There's 4 steps to feel.
4 steps to feel.
4 steps to feel.
Then
Deal.
Okay.
So the first step of deal is you cope, right? So you might pick a coping tool. We talked about those earlier. So affirm would be like your affirmations, right? I am enough. Or
sorry. So it's cope and then affirm.
and then affirm. So
Okay.
sorry, yeah. Cope and then affirm. Affirm is like, I am enough. I can do this. I believe in myself. You talk about this a lot, like neutral statements, which I think are helpful here too. I'm a human. I'm learning. I'm trying my best, right? Things like that. And then accept and act is kind of that, like, I accept this feeling, which even if you don't truly feel that way, it can be helpful to just like say that to yourself. I accept this feeling. I am not this feeling. Me and my emotions are separate. I am a person experiencing emotions, but I am not this emotion. And then another part of this is like exploring what needs do I have that can help me with this emotion, or what need is this emotion trying to get met, and how can I support myself through this, or my partner if you're doing it with a partner. So maybe we could talk about examples of this.
I would love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll share a story. And then I would love to hear your guys' stories if you have any. Like, if you have any thoughts on like when this might have been helpful, or like when you did something like this. I think that'd be cool. So, heavy-hearted moment. My husband in March of 2023 he first started getting symptoms for Hodgkin's lymphoma. We found out in July that he had Hodgkin's lymphoma. Spoiler alert, everything's fine. He's great.
Yay.
He's in remission and all is well. But I remember, because I have history with my family, with my brother having cancer. And I remember when I first found out, like, I was like, I got this. Like, I felt kind of like I can do this. I've done this before. And it was kind of more of a support system for his family members that were like, this is our first time hearing something like this. The cancer word is really, really scary. And I was like, it's okay. I can help guide you through this, right? Then I kind of had my own moment of like, it's happened. Everyone's kind of like smoothed over the news. We feel good. It kind of hit me like, oh, because I've been through this, I know what this is going to be like. And I know how hard this is. And then it was like, whoo, it hit me like a wave, like this grief and this pain. And I remember in that moment, I was like, no, you're going to be okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then I was like, no, this is the time to do a feel, deal, heal, right? So I like paused and I just like was like, you're feeling sad. You're feeling grief. Like, of course you would feel grief. Your husband has cancer. Like, you're going to be doing chemo and you're going to be his support system through this. Like, and then again, heavy-hearted, but like, I was like, of course you're scared he might not make it through it. Like, he has cancer. Of course you're scared he's going to die. Like, that's really, really scary. And then I had this moment of like, but, like, he's probably not. The doctor said it's going to be okay. Like, and then I had to be like, okay, but it's still okay to be scared. Yeah. And that was like, oh, and then this like wave of tears, like washes. And that's where I just like sat in my office and I just grieved the possibility that he might not make it. Which, holy cow, if anyone's been through that, you know, like that is so hard. And then I like grieved also like the chemotherapy visits and like this anticipation. So we talk about anxiety attacks being in anticipation. Had I not allowed myself to just feel it and cry and like validate that, it could have led eventually to anxiety attacks and maybe even panic attacks, right? But because I was able to just like sit with it and feel it in the moment, it didn't become this recurring thing. As a side note too, like it's not like after that I was like, yay, my husband's gonna be fine, we're good. It was more that I was like, okay, I'm allowed to feel this and give space for it. Like the whole like holding space idea, like hold space.
I'm just holding space.
Just gonna hold space for yeah.
If you're listening right now, this is gonna be really boring, so go watch this on YouTube.
And if you don't get the reference, Google Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo holding space.
Holding space.
But yeah, that's what that means, is like holding space for those emotions. And then like I felt like throughout that experience of like chemo treatments, after that I was like, okay, I'm prepared because like I've allowed myself to grieve, and now it's not this recurring thing. It's just, I'm going to face this and I'm going to be okay. And that's that like accept and act, right? Like I can do this. And I will say it came up again, like later down the line, and I cried again. Yeah. And that's okay. Like I think it just allowed, because I was able to stay present with those emotions, they didn't stack up. Yeah. I like to say emotions are like credit card debt, right? Like you put money on your credit card and you're supposed to pay it off within like a couple weeks to a month. Otherwise, it's going to start collecting interest, right? Yeah. So emotions are the same way. Like you can kind of store them for a while, but at some point they're going to start collecting interest and collecting debt. And then the payout is going to be so much bigger at the end which is why they can lead to anxiety attacks and lead to like these bigger issues, maybe even physical symptoms, people that get sick all the time. Like it could be because you're under chronic stress, because you're not facing your emotions and dealing with them. And so I like to use that analogy because it's, people will say like, well, can't I like, do I have to feel the emotion the moment I'm experiencing it? It's like, well, no, like if you're at work, you're not just going to sit there and like, I'm just going to start crying while I'm on a work call. Like, no, you can kind of contain it for a little while, but pay it off as soon as you can so you're not collecting debt.
I like that analogy a lot.
I love that.
Yeah. Like that makes a lot of sense to my brain.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. And it's helpful, right? Because like sometimes you're just like, I don't want to face this right now. Great. Yeah. Don't. Go distract yourself, but don't put it off forever.
Yeah.
Face it eventually.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, I definitely do that where it's like, I can put it off. And then I put it off for long enough that, like, the sting of it is gone. Mm-hmm. And so then I'm like, psh, like, okay. I must have just taken care of that. But then, like, it does. It always creeps back in, like, a month later.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, no, that did impact me. That really bugged me. Or whatever it was. Yeah.
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 And I think that can happen in relationships too.
Yes.
Where like with a partner where we're like, we put it off for 24 hours, the sting of it is gone. And then we're happy with each other now and it's so much better. But you have then this like, what's the word? This stack of like underlying issues that build and fester and
get some resentment.
Turn to resentment. Yeah, exactly.
I really like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like would that be a good place to go? What are memories or experiences you've had that you feel like being able to just pause, notice it, cope with it, feel it would have been helpful? Or maybe you did that and it was helpful.
It's not something I'm awesome at. I'm going to be honest. I don't typically deal with things in the moment. I wait, and it's not very helpful.
Yeah. You like credit cards?
I love credit cards.
Yeah.
And credit card debt.
Credit card debt?
Just like loading it up. But yeah, like it's, because I just feel like I can handle so much. Because I do think like my window of tolerance is pretty big.
I agree.
I really think so. And so I think because it's so big, it's hard for me to know when it's time to start handling things. And usually like it ends up in like an anxiety attack or a panic attack. When you were saying anxiety attacks and panic attacks, I feel like you were saying like one's kind of like before everything leading up, and then panic attacks can kind of be after, like
like in response.
Yeah, and I almost feel like my panic attacks are in response to like something. I'm not sure what thing it was that set it off, but it's just kind of like holy crap, I'm coming down from all this crap that I'm dealing with. Yeah. And so I feel like I like go into my bathroom and hyperventilate a little bit, but then I'm fine. Then I'm fine. That's in quotes, everyone. Okay, I'm fine. Yeah, so I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to text you next
Please
time.
do.
I'm like, I'm healing right now.
I'm healing. Is this feeling or dealing or healing?
I'm in the feel process. Like, I'm going to text you and I'm going to like make you come over. And,
no,
like,
seriously.
And right now we're feeling okay. Like, where are we feeling it in our body? That's what I need.
Which is why I tell people, like, if you're in crisis and you're like, oh, today's like, well, maybe I think a lot of people actually go to the therapist at that moment, but that is a good time to go. Right. I will also say if you're not in that place, also go to your therapist still. Like, don't cancel your appointment. But I'm only saying this because I think other people will relate with you. Yes. So know that I'm not calling you out at all, but I'm only saying this because I think it's helpful to other people too. Is there's like tolerance, right? Our ability to truly tolerate those emotions and face them. And then there's numbing. And being able to kind of this like low-key dissociate or dissociation from the emotions. And I think people, again, not calling you out, that have been through trauma and have been through really, really tough experiences do have a capability of being able to like dissociate and numb from a lot of those things and kind of ride this like surface level. So like I don't have to truly like feel those emotions. And so I think you do have a wide window, and I think you can numb
100%.
really well and still be able to function
100%.
like and so for those people that like connect with that with Britton and me, I'm same exact way.
I'm sure everyone numbs to some extent, but I definitely like 100%. I think I hardcore numb for 100%. Sure.
Which it's easier to just like numb and keep going, right? And just everything's fine, like, everything's good. You know, I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to say, Mom, if you're listening, hi. She used to be like, why is it that when you're out with your friends, you're always so happy and bubbly and fun, and then the moment you come home, you're like grumpy? And I have learned now, I think it's because at home I was like, I can be grumpy, I can be like, I'm safe to do that. But I think the other part of it was that I was masking and numbing when I was out with people. So then when I get home, I'm hit with this wave of like all the anxiety that I felt when I was with friends that I wasn't sure if they liked me, or I would say things that were kind of crazy and, you know, like do things that were kind of spunky, but like people might have been like, wow, she's so confident and she's so fun. I would go home and be like, crap, like, what did I say that was so stupid? And I would kind of like cringe and sit with that. So
like they think I'm so annoying.
They must think I'm so dumb. And I would replay those scenarios.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. I really like that. I think that's
Yeah. So I think our ability to like just notice that that's happening.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to judge yourself for it. Just notice that it's happening and be like, I think I'm numbing right now is a really great first step, right?
Okay.
As a bonus is being able to be like, okay, what emotion am I numbing right now? And you might be like, I'm just avoiding feeling all of it. Okay, great. What sensations are you avoiding? Or what, and then being like, I'm not ready to go there. Okay, great. Stick a pin in it. Come back to it tonight. Or tomorrow.
But come back.
Or Sunday. But come back to it.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try that. I'm going to call you.
Okay.
I'm going to call you.
I love that.
And I'm going to be like, walk me through this.
Walk me through this.
Okay, so we've kind of talked about like what anxiety is, how to identify actual anxiety attacks and things like that. Can we just go into some like basic daily habits that people can get into to kind of like keep their anxiety in check, kind of decrease it where they can? Do you have any good tips for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is interesting. They did a study on like anti-anxiety medication compared to people that like went on walks every day. And they had people go on like 30-minute walks. I don't remember the exact like conditions for the study, but they basically like compared the results and they found that like walking was incredibly beneficial in all, I think pretty sure was like comparable to anti-anxiety medication, right? And so
that's amazing.
Know that like, I'm not a mental health provider in terms of I'm not a psychiatrist or anything. I don't prescribe medication, but I think that's a really helpful study to think about in terms of like managing day-to-day anxiety, right? I'm not telling people to get off of their anti-anxiety medication. If it's working for you, stay on it. Like do what's best for you.
Do what your doctors are telling you.
Do what your doctors are telling you to do, right? And knowing that like if you just went on a walk for 30 minutes every day, like that can be really, really beneficial. One, because it gets the blood moving. It kind of gives you like, I mean, what are you usually doing when you're on a walk, right? You're maybe looking around, sights and sounds. You're kind of like getting out in the air. You're maybe getting exposure to some sunlight, right? There's kind of that joke going around TikTok for a while that was like, man, I just feel like trash today. Why? Well, have you gone outside today? No. Have you eaten any food today? No. Have you drinking any water today? No. Did you get good sleep tonight? No. Like, well, shoot, maybe that's why I feel like crap. So all of those things that I just said, right? Like making sure you're sleeping well. Another thing for like managing is, I mean, everyone's different, but like brain dumping, like journaling, or like I'm a big, like I don't, sometimes my brain moves faster than like my hand can write or that I can type. So like dictating or doing like a voice recording to myself that like no one's going to listen to, of just like venting and talking. This is another one for me, is like getting in the car and just like, for me, it's like praying out loud, is pretending that like he, God is like sitting in the driver or the passenger seat. And I'm just like, can you believe this? Like, and then this happened and then they said this and I just can't believe this. And then like having that moment to just let it all out. Again, energy has to go somewhere. And so if you can like, so yeah, like a habit of like journaling every day, or honestly talking to a friend every day or something like that. Another one that's really good is, a lot of people are going to think this is boring, but let me make it fun. Meditation or mindfulness practice helps for almost anyone with any need. So for those that don't know what that is.
How do you make this fun?
How do we make this fun? So I have ADHD and I have to gamify everything. Otherwise, it's not fun for me. So there's a book called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, which highly recommend. It's just such a great title on its own. But he talks about in his book, like 60 seconds. You set a timer for 60 seconds. And the goal in that 60 seconds is to focus on the sheer data of your breath going in and out, whether it's out of your nose, notice it in your lungs, wherever you want to notice it. Your mind is going to wander because your brain's job is to come up with new thoughts. It's going to wander. So you just accept that fact and you tally every time your brain leaves and then comes back, right? So you might start like meditating or being mindful and then be like, man, I'm kind of hungry. And be like, oh, shoot, I was supposed to be breathing. Most people in that moment are going to be like, I am so bad at meditation. Like, I'm just going to quit now because I suck at it. No, that's the moment where you go, oh my gosh, I noticed I wasn't meditating. Ha, I got a point, right? And you do that for 60 seconds. And what that does is it builds the brain's muscle of coming back. Because that, to me, like that's mindfulness, is being able to come back to the present, not just staying in the present, right? So if I could recommend to anybody, like a plan is walk maybe 30 minutes a day, eat food, get good sleep, and then like 60 seconds of mindfulness a day and like grow it as that gets easier. Yeah, that would be my like game plan. Yeah.
I love that. When you told me about the mindfulness exercise too,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because I always like punish myself. That's in quotes too, where it's
Sure.
like, man, I'm so dumb. I can't believe I can't like stay on task for 60 seconds.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the art of coming back is so good.
Yeah, and if you can reward yourself for it, like, good job, you
Yeah,
came back,
you
then
came
your brain's
back.
like, oh, meditation's actually fun because I'm not like
Like I get rewarded.
getting angry at myself the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you said that, I was just like, that is amazing.
like,
That's
that's
how
doable.
everything should be. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and for people that need an extra reward, like, go for it. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you need to make it interesting, that's fine, you know?
I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
Is
so
there anything that
good.
you guys would add? Like, what are daily habits that you have that you feel like help your anxiety?
Alani. I'm just,
Mine is I stopped drinking Alani.
Rachel doesn't drink
Fair.
energy drinks anymore.
It's not for my mental health because it makes me sad. Honestly, I'm sure it's benefiting,
No, it is.
but it's for my heart. So
Yeah, yeah. If you do struggle with anxiety, I will say, be careful with caffeine.
caffeine.
Just be careful.
yep.
I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying don't.
She's a therapist.
Just be careful.
And like, for instance, like I know if say I'm walking into a day that I know I'm going to be anxious, or like maybe even like excited anxious, Kane concert for instance, I won't drink an Alani because I know I'll have enough adrenaline to get me through the day. And if I drink an Alani
Way over the edge.
with
way too much.
all of that, I will lose my mind.
Yeah,
love
yeah.
So
love
just
it.
being mindful if you can. Obviously, sometimes anxiety comes up when like
You don't expect
when
it.
you don't
or-
expect it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, I'm the same way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, it's making lists ahead of time before I start getting stressed out about things.
Yeah.
I think like that's how I can kind of keep my brain on track. So it's not necessarily like a breathing technique or anything, but it's just like I always have something to come back to, so that when I'm starting to freak out, I can be like, no, this is what we were gonna do today. Like, this is what was on the plan.
Collect my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
like
great.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something we didn't talk about, but we talked about talking
Oh.
about is like, it's making me think about what you're saying.
I'm so excited.
Like, what needs are anxiety trying to get met?
Yes, please. Can we talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So every emotion that you're experiencing has a need. And it's not like as simple as we Google what need does anxiety have, because that's going to change from moment to moment, right? But what you guys are talking about is like sometimes that anxiety is like trying to motivate you to like make a plan, get organized, right? And
Regulate.
regulate. Yeah. So I think if like we can notice that, like I love that you're saying, you know, like, oh, if I could just make a plan, then everything is fine. I think a lot of times we freak out like, oh no, I have to, like, I'm feeling anxious. What do I do? But if you can pause and be like, oh, what need is this trying to get met? Might be like, oh, I just need to sit down and like plan for a second. Or I just need to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What other needs?
No, I love. I
Might
think
it
for
be,
me,
like-
it's like when I'm in giant crowds, I'm like my need is that like I need some quiet time.
Quiet time.
Unless
yeah.
As
you're
soon
at
as I
Disney.
can.
Yeah.
Unless I'm at Disney, then it's fine.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
actually a good point. Like sometimes it's I need safety.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of times if it's like, okay, well then what is safe? Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, crowds are really scary to me. And then that's actually where I might be like, okay, am I in yellow, orange, or red? And if
I
you're in
love
yellow, then you can be like, okay, I can handle this. I can be safe even though I'm in crowds. You know, there's some exposure there. But yeah, like just noticing like, oh, my anxiety is trying to get this need met.
I like that a lot.
It's trying to help me. It might just be some information like the car's dashboard is dinging. Hey, your gas is low or whatever, you know. So,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
It's just like alerting us that we need something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's just sometimes too with my anxiety, I have to kind of like talk to it like it's a second party in my brain, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to be like, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing here. I know you're trying so hard to help me. And what you're actually doing is making it really hard for me to accomplish this task. So here's what we're going to do, you know, and I kind of like reparent a little bit. Like,
Love that.
you are going to help me focus. And I,
Do you want to help me make brownies?
no,
Okay,
literally.
Come here.
Okay, you're in charge of the eggs. Like, I'll literally give it a job where I'm like, your job is to help me focus on these things, right? And then I'm like, okay, and my job is to breathe every time I notice my heart rate going up. Or maybe I'll, you know, have a standing desk. Maybe I'll stand while I do do work so that like my energy can like flow a little bit more, or give it a job.
I love that a lot.
I have an example too. Like even like a couple weeks ago, maybe even last week, I don't know. I was like, I just wasn't feeling right. You know, it wasn't like I was overly anxious. I just wasn't feeling great. Yeah. So I just like went and laid in my bed and was scrolling on TikTok for a minute and just like not doing anything productive whatsoever. But that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And then I realized I'm kind of tired. And then I went to bed at 6 p.m. and slept till the next morning. And I was like, oh, I needed to sleep.
Oh, like I was just tired.
I was just extremely exhausted.
Really tired.
Like your body was like, let's get into bed. Let's do this.
And how easy would it have been to be like, oh my gosh, you're so lazy. You slept for 12 hours. When it's just like, oh, my body just needed
15
to sleep.
hours. 15 full hours.
That's impressive.
In my defense, it was like 2 days post Disney. So like that makes sense why I needed that much sleep.
100%.
But I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
When I decided to like lay down, I was like, I'll just take like a nap. It's 6 o'clock. I'll sleep for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it was like 11 o'clock and I was like, oh, well, no, I'll go brush my teeth and go back to bed.
Yeah, perfect.
I
love it.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I love
so
that
good.
example though, where it's like, okay, like you just needed that.
Yeah.
And then you gave yourself that and it was probably better the next day. Like you're probably feeling more like
I feel
yourself.
like I take for granted now, like how well I can sleep because I am a good sleeper.
That's awesome.
But like a few years ago, I was not. Like
Yeah.
anxiety was like ruling the world, and I was like trying to go to sleep was miserable.
yeah.
Waking up was miserable. All of it was miserable, and so now I'm like, I'm so grateful that I can just like lay down and go to sleep.
Go to sleep. That's so good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so Laura, you're a therapist.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
This is true. Thank you.
I know that anxiety is also something that you struggle with, and that's why you have so many great coping tools that you use, right?
Yeah.
So how does your own anxiety shape you as a therapist?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the first thing that it does is it's given me a lot of empathy and like true understanding of like what that person is going through when they experience anxiety. One of the first things they teach us in grad school is reflective statements, active listening skills, and things like that. And I think one step deeper to that is like truly understanding that person's experience, right? And being able to like, again, not judge it, give space for it. Now, they say like the number one, and I think this is important for people to know, the number one predictor of success in therapy is the therapeutic relationship. It's not the tactic you're using. It's not the theory you're based off of as a therapist, right? Or that you're leaning on. It's 100% that connection and feeling of safety you have with the client, with the therapist. And let me just say too, the therapeutic relationship goes both ways. So my professors always told me it has to feel safe for the therapist and it has to feel safe for the client, right? It is a relationship. It's just very unique just because of that kind of dynamic, right? The authority dynamic, it's a little bit different. So yeah, I think that's one thing that's helped me, like knowing that and knowing like, I know that an anxious client, it might take more to help them feel safe. And I've said this to people, I think I'm a kind of difficult client in the therapy room because I'm so anxious and my anxiety is like predicting what's going to happen. So I'm like, I know they're going to use a reflective statement. I know they're going to do this. I know they're going to try this CBT skill with me. I know and then when they do it, I'm like, see, told you, I'm 2 steps ahead, you know, and I don't say
like,
that.
Do I even need you?
Right. Like, but it's like, I'm always very polite. I'm always very kind, but I'm like, am I truly actually getting any work done in this room, you know? And so, as a therapist, because I can I know what that's like, I can instead kind of follow the client a little bit and let them lead the way. And for a lot of clients, that's what they need in order to feel safe first, right? Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. I love it. And you've talked about this with, I don't know if you want to share.
Sure.
But like humor, I think is huge for me because that honestly should have been something I said earlier with the coping tools is like using humor as a way to kind of soften those feelings of anxiety. I know in the therapy room, if it's appropriate and when it's appropriate, if I can use humor to kind of soften how things feel, it really helps a client feel safe. So therapists, like, laugh at your client's jokes because it can help them feel safe.
Yeah. I dropped out. I'm a therapy dropout. Yeah, I definitely like quit therapy because like I use humor to cope a lot. like a lot. And I like made a joke that would land in any room. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make that really clear that I make good jokes.
She does.
And she was like, anyway. And then just like kept going. And I was like, this is not working.
This is not going to work for me.
Not for you.
Not
This is
gonna
not
work
for
for
me.
me.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not going to work. Yeah. And like maybe
Yeah.
for some people, that's the right approach is like, well, let's get you back on track. But
I think you can.
I need it.
Yeah. I think you can do it in a way. And every therapist has their style, right? And so, again, the therapeutic relationship is the thing that determines the fit, which is why there's so many different therapists and different styles. But I think one of the quickest ways to build rapport with a person is to laugh at their jokes.
I agree.
Even if they're not funny,
I
which
agree.
you are funny, but
Thank
like
you.
one of the quickest ways to build rapport, I think, is to have that like laugh. And that doesn't mean you can't say like, ha ha ha, I laughed at your joke. And then, hey, hold on a second. There might be something to that. Can we go back to that? You said this, and this. And then explore from there, but like laugh first and then explore rather than being like, because I think that can make a person feel analyzed. And the moment a person feels analyzed, like they're very vulnerable and that can feel really unsafe for that person. Yeah. If you can instead, and this is maybe me giving advice to therapists, but like take the approach of like, we are exploring you together. Like you and I are going side by side exploring you, not I'm
analyzing you.
Analyzing, right.
Yeah.
No one likes, because that's honestly one of the first questions people ask me when they find out I'm a therapist. I'm like, are you psychoanalyzing me? Have you been psychoanalyzed? And I'm like, no,
Like,
I'm
what's
not.
wrong with me?
I don't even
Diagnose
right, exactly. Like, no.
Yeah.
I don't think that's helpful. So
I think you said something though when I was starting my therapy journey that like was really helpful to me, which you just said like shop around, like go to 50 therapists if you need to. Like
100%.
Like you don't have to stick with it.
Yeah. Give them a chance, but don't stick with it. Like, and I've had people tell me like, yeah, I'm still seeing my therapist, even though they're talking to me about their problems. And I'm like, you are paying your therapist and your therapist is talking about their problems. Huge issue, by the way, not okay. Like immediately, just don't show up anymore. Like if you have, don't ghost your therapist, but if you have to ghost them, ghost them. But like, just politely say, hey, I will not be continuing services. Shop around. I mean, I've been through 4. I think when I moved to West Virginia, it took me 4 first appointments to find a good fit. Now, let me just want to say this. Like, I know that can get expensive for some people. I had the benefit of like therapy was paid through my school. And so I was able to shop around at no expense. Not everyone has that opportunity. And I understand how difficult that is, especially if you're doing an employment assisted program. You only get 6 sessions. If you're doing it through insurance, like that gets really tricky. So my one piece of advice is like go to Psychology Today. It's like the Google for therapists. You can filter men, woman, like faith. You can kind of dial it down from that way. And a lot of therapists offer free 10 to 15 minute, sometimes 20-minute consultation calls. And so if you can just kind of have some questions, but then also in that call, like just assess, like, do our personalities jive? Do we fit? Then that like gives you a chance to like you said, shop around a little bit. You know, so
Make sure they'll laugh at your joke.
Make sure they'll laugh at your joke. Yeah, drop a joke in there. Like,
Just see how it goes.
see how it goes.
I think that's really great advice, like to tell people is like just if it's not working, like just
it's okay.
Just switch.
Yeah.
See, because I think especially if people like didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm someone that's like, okay, I'm gonna do my research on people before with 100%. Anything for the most part.
Yeah.
But like if I have a bad experience, I'm probably just gonna stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm just being real. It just confirms the fact that like, especially if you're like nervous about doing it, not wanting to do it.
Yes.
And then you have a bad experience, it's like, okay,
makes it even
well,
harder.
Like I shouldn't have been there.
It just justifies in my brain, like, yep.
No one can help me.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing. As a therapist, I will say it's nice if someone tells me, hey, I don't think we're the best fit because.
Yeah.
As a provider, oh my gosh, that gives me great feedback. One, so I can know, was it just that our personalities didn't jive and we're not a good fit? Or is there something I can improve on as a therapist to be more sensitive to clients, right? And that's something that I'm always kind of looking for is like, how am I doing? Because I am a provider. It is unique in that it's like kind of this deep relationship you get. But if you think about going to the doctor, if you meet with a doctor and you don't really feel like they're listening, your concerns aren't really addressed, or their specialty doesn't align with what your needs are, you're not going to be like, well, let me just go keep seeing that doctor. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to keep shopping around. It's the same thing with therapists. And so I think the more we can empower people to like take the steps they need to find the right fit, the better. So this might be a good time to also talk about, I don't know if I'm jumping in with your questions, but like at what point do we seek professional help
please talk
versus
about that.
like self-help at-home resources, right?
Yeah, because I feel like in today's world, we have so many at-home resources.
Many.
And we're really lucky for that.
Yep.
But like you're a professional for a reason.
Right.
You have clients for a reason.
Right.
So yeah, when do people, when do we decide?
At what point?
Yeah.
The one thing that I'll say is if you're noticing your struggles directly negatively impact day-to-day functioning more often than not, it might be time to seek some help. So, right, frequency, intensity, I think those are the two things that I kind of look at, right? And so if you're, for example, having panic attacks and they're getting worse or they're not getting less frequent, it might also be, that might be a good time. Another thing that I like to say is if you're, watching mindfulness videos and you're going on walks and you're eating good food and it's not helping, there might be something you're missing, like that you're not aware of, right? There might be core beliefs that are leading to those emotions, that are leading to those negative thoughts that you're not aware of. And it might be helpful to have a therapist help you explore those things so you can address the root causes, right? If you're able to kind of explore those and get there on your own, and be able to cope with the heavy emotions that often come with those on your own, then you're probably okay. But a lot of times people need support through that. Is that a clear answer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I mean, I don't know if I can just throw in a little advice.
Please.
I think it's also really important. This isn't always, but seek out, get blood work done.
Yes.
Because you don't know, like, you may think you're crazy, something's going on, and your mind's just messed up. In reality, you're really low on something.
Like your
something's really messed up.
Yeah, your iron deficiency, which is why you're tired all the time.
And it's really like...
100%.
I think that's great
agree
advice.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would say as far as like, not on the blood work side of things, but like knowledge ends, frustration begins. And so if you're starting to feel like frustrated all the time because you're like, like I'm angry now and I'm irritable, that may mean that your brain is like trying to find the answer, but it can't with the resources that you have. And so it just means that you need more resources, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of self-help books, and there is kind of this place that we can get into where we over intellectualize our problems and we're more like solving them through knowledge rather than like actually doing the deep work.
Yeah.
And that can be especially true for people that have experienced trauma. I think it can be easier to kind of learn away our problems, but not actually like face them and like truly deal with them. So yeah. So my simple answer to that question is it depends. Like, when do you seek professional help? It depends on the person. It depends on your resources. I will say also financial resources. Like, a lot of therapists too offer sliding scale spots. They just don't offer them unless you ask, because if they offer them and advertise them loudly, everyone's going to ask. So if you are in a place where you want therapy, but you don't have the financial resources or you don't have insurance that covers that, like ask around for therapists that have sliding scale spots.
Can you explain sliding scale
I'm so
spots
sorry.
to our listeners in case they don't know what it is?
Yeah. So sliding scale is basically just like flexible pricing where, for example, some people will say, okay, whatever your wage is, like your hourly wages that you receive, I will charge you that much for therapy, right? So if you make $15 an hour, then you pay $15 an hour for therapy, right? They also might say like pay what you can starting at $40 an hour, right? And so if you're like, I know that I can't afford $60 an hour, that's in my budget, then I will pay that, right? Or if all you can pay is $40, then you pay $40. So it's just flexible pricing. Yeah. I think every therapist, maybe that's too black and white, but I think most therapists want to increase accessibility to therapy. We want that. We also have to pay our bills. We have to,
Like, this is your job.
This is our
your full-time
job. It's
job.
profession. It took a lot of education to get there. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just so hard. We have to balance both of those. So
Yeah.
I know you had said like you have a certain number of slots available
Yes.
for that. So like just call therapists and see if they have any sliding scale slots available. Is that okay?
The
I
other
love it.
option is ask therapists about super billing. And I'll just explain that quickly.
Yeah, please.
It's basically where you pay for the service. So let's say your therapist is $100 per session. You'll pay the $100. Your therapist will send you something called a super bill. And that is something you submit to your insurance. And then they reimburse you for a portion of that service, either 100%, 80%, like whatever that is. So call your insurance. There's a number on the back of the card, just the customer service line. And you can ask, do you accept super bills? What therapy services do you cover? And that can be another great way to like pay your therapist, but also have that flexible fee. So
I love that.
yeah,
I love like the increasing accessibility. I think that's so good.
so important.
you.
Yeah.
I guess to end here, what is something you wish every single person with anxiety could hear and believe about themselves?
Yeah. I would say my end hope is that like you can feel safe in yourself, with your relationships, and in your life. Like I that's what I would want for people that have anxiety, is that they can feel safe and do hard things. Overall, like no matter where you're at in your anxiety journey, I would say you've been resilient before, you can be resilient again. One of my favorite examples of this is like, how many of you can walk? Right? I'm so sorry if you have never learned to walk, right? Or you didn't have that opportunity. But like if you think about a baby, like how many times does a baby fall before they learn how to walk? I think they did a study and it was like in the thousands and thousands of times that they fall and get back up, fall and get back up. And so if you can think about it, like everyone has, and this isn't the story, I didn't come up with this. This is one of my mentors that has this story kind of written and seared into my brain. But if you can think about that, like I've done it before. I've fallen and gotten back up, right? And to you might be like, oh yeah, but walking, that's so easy. When you were a baby, it wasn't easy. Right. And so you've done it before. It is a built-in capacity because you're a human. You have the ability to like get back up after you fall. So you've been resilient before, you can be resilient again.
Laura, thank you.
Thank you.
I love you. We're so thankful that you're here, for real. Like I know people are going to get so much value out of everything that you shared with us today. So just thank you for coming and for sharing.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Literally anytime. Anytime.
This has been great.
Anytime you want to come back, please come hang out with us. We would love it.
Thank you.
If people maybe just want to follow along with you or potentially even work with you, where can they find your information? You mentioned a consultation, perhaps.
Yeah.
Where do you want people to track you down?
Okay, so I am not active on social media at all.
That's
I will
okay.
say that, so there's no following along there. But I am on Psychology Today. If you look up Laura Gleason, I'm in Ohio. If you search in Ohio, you'll find Laura Gleason somewhere.
I love it.
I have a link.
We'll link everything below that we talked about today. You're awesome.
Thanks
for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're enjoying Lighthearted, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who need a little more light in their lives.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram at LightHeartedPod for updates on episodes and fun behind the scenes content. If you'd like to join us over on TikTok, that will also be linked below.
And don't forget to stay lighthearted.
This podcast was recorded on Buzzsprout in West Virginia.